Hey, good morning there, Ragamuffins. This light's terrible. Hey, I just want to, first off, I want to start off and thank you guys that gave me feedback yesterday. It was really good for my heart, and it was a prayer of mine. Sometimes when we put ourselves out vulnerable like this and subject ourselves to the world's criticism, it can be a little intimidating. I know the Lord's got me and I'm okay, but it sure does help to get built up by others too. So, and the Lord speaks through other people too, right? So thank you. Appreciate that. Next part of this is I want to talk about a dream that I had. And we all know that from the Bible that in Genesis, Joseph was a dreamer and he was a dream interpreter. And sometimes those dreams they can come from the second heaven. In other words, they can come from dark forces. But a lot of times I don't know how the mechanics work, and I really don't understand it that deep. And sometimes I try to go too deep. But with that being said, I had a dream when I was really just an absolute wreck. And the dream was I was flying and I had a golden rose in my hand. It was a metallic rose. And I was crumbling it as I was flying over a crowd of people. And in dreams and visions, sometimes you just get an impression. Like you don't hear a word, you don't see anything in particular. You just get this impression. And when you snap out of this vision or this dream, you just know that you know that you know. And so in this dream, I felt like those people were my family and my friends. And I looked up the Hebrew meaning of rose, and rose is my name, Jared, is rose in Hebrew. It's one of the meanings of the name Jared. So, and gold is considered a blessing, and it's considered God's blessing. Gold is God, right? Gold it's something more valuable than gold, and there's mentions of gold all through the Bible about refining us finer than gold. Um, so basically, the prophetic translation of that is God was saying that I'm going to bless my family um, with this. So you all watching are part of a dream that God gave me, and that was that I was going to bless my family and my friends in the future. And so that time is now. Now, over the last few years, I've had a lot of dreams and I shouldn't say a lot, just several dreams, and I've also had several words. So earlier on, I told you all about waking up first thing in the morning and hearing the number 209. I just heard 209, 209, 209, and I flipped open the Bible on my nightstand, and it matched the story that I had just read to my son 15 minutes earlier in his action Bible. So that's kind of the way God arranges things. There's a reason why they're called signs and wonders. Is you get a sign and you just sit there and you just wonder. You're like, oh, what does this mean, God? What are you doing here? And sometimes our complicated minds, we want to make it more than it is. And then we want to make it less than it is, and we've got to find a balance. Having a dream like that I had of the golden rose and hearing the word 209, 209 didn't mean necessarily that I needed to do anything crazy. It just meant, hey, I'm here. I got you. I'm giving you some hope to hang on to. I'm giving you something to tarry with. This is just the love of God. This is just love being a child of God is him sending us things to make us think, wow, what a wonderful big God we have, and how he arranges all these wonderful things for his children, for us to understand his ways, for us to be encouraged, for us to laugh, for us to poke fun at ourselves later when we totally overthink it, and when we find out what the real answer is. I find that a lot of humbling experiences where I'm like, okay, let's put all this big huge calculus problem today and multiply 8 times 15 and da da da. And most of the time it's just so ridiculously simple that our minds make it this big complicated thing. So back on the dream about the flying and about the rose. I've got a really great story about redemption. I post verses on Facebook quite frequently, and I need to up it a little more. But since I've been doing these videos, but my dad was in Desert Storm, and he when he came back from Desert Storm, I think he was a little bit different, and I don't know how to explain it other than just seemed like he had a little shorter temper, and so and just it was just different. Not in a bad way, but come to find out, he's had some issues while he was there, and so one day I posted on Facebook the verse Isaiah 40:31, and Isaiah 40:31 is the one about eagles. It's a very, very popular verse. A lot of guys use that as their life verse, or it just hits them right, and it's an encouraging. Actually, Isaiah 40 period, just the whole chapter is encouraging. But yet those who wait for the Lord will gain new strength. They will mount up with wings like eagles. They will run and not get tired. They will walk and not become weary. So I posted this on Facebook, and right away my dad replies. This is about 2 years ago. Right away my dad replies, a year and a half ago actually. My dad replies and says, "I just saw an eagle fly out of the ditch." And as with all God events like that, we just file them in the back and just wait for the next step, next stage. So a couple months later, I get this urge one morning to go up and see my dad. And I had been fasting, and earlier in my fasting videos, I explained to you guys how that makes us more spiritually aware. And I drive up there in a fasting state, and my dad calls me an hour into my drive, and he says, "Hey, we just had a pack of coyotes come down on our cows, and one of your mama cows was down having a baby, and the coyotes got her." And I said, "Well, I'm on my way." He's like, "You're what?" And I was like, "I'm on my way." So I jump in the truck. I'm on my way. I get up there. My dad and I hang out for a couple of days. We're shooting at coyotes and just kind of being with each other. And a lot of times when spiritual things happen, like I told you all about our stomach being this big ball of neurons, and that's where our spirit is located. On Saturday, my dad started feeling sick, and could be completely unrelated, but I'm explaining all the details in the story to see some signs here. So I left. I went back home. Nothing, no big deal. About 2-3 weeks later, my dad calls me and he says, "Hey, I got something I got to tell you." So he explained to me his story of being in Desert Storm, and whenever the ground invasion occurred, all of the entire army was crossing the Iraqi border. And you can imagine the stress, like the wartime. I can't imagine the stress of being worried about whatever's going to happen. So dad's crossing over into Iraq in his rocket launcher, And on their rocket launchers, they have a little computer, and it's called a Jaguar. Well, Dad had an active duty troop in his rocket launcher. He was the NCO in charge, and this kid that was prior active duty was on board with him, and he knew that you have to reboot that little Jaguar every hour in order to receive fire missions. So this was the first big technological jump in artillery, and headquarters was sending missions out via the airwaves satellite to these Jaguars. Well, if you didn't reboot this thing, it's just like rebooting your laptop, you weren't going to get the message. So out of my dad's battery of rocket launchers, there's like 28 of them. Dad was the only one to receive this fire mission. And he fired his rockets, and they were supposed to be on radio silence because they just were unsure of what this Iraqi Republican Guard and everything they were getting into. And his chain of command broke the radio silence, and they started screaming at him on the radio while his rockets were going off, and said, "You aren't authorized to do this. You aren't authorized to do that." And there were some other things I won't get into, but basically it traumatized him, and it hurt him because my dad loved the Army, still loves the Army, loves the military. And you can imagine when you really put your heart into something, you guys know what it's like when you put your heart into your family, you put your heart into your job, and disappointing things happen. It can be heart-wrenching. So while Dad's over in the desert, some of his friends were teasing him a little bit about where those rockets went, and et cetera, et cetera. And the truth is he had no idea where those rockets went. And that causes tension and heartache. And so here I am listening to him tell me this story on the phone. And he was on a Facebook page for Desert Storm veterans. And these Desert Storm vets there was a guy from, I believe it was the 82nd Airborne, that was talking about whenever he was on the front lines in Iraq, that they were taking heavy fire from an artillery and heavy gun unit, Iraqi unit. And they were about ready to abandon their vehicles. It was getting so bad. And suddenly, out of the middle of nowhere, these rockets came in and just wiped out this unit. And it was totally that set of circumstances that God arranged was set up to redeem my dad from that trauma. And something happened. Something broke free in his mind and in his heart, and he felt redeemed. And it's just so wonderful what God does for us, to arrange those type of things whenever we pray and we actively pray for other people and we seek God, and he shows us his power and his might to redeem people. And that's exactly what that is it changed my dad's attitude. And he's different. I just put it that way. Not perfect. None of us are. But he's on his way, and it's wonderful. So that's what I got for you today. The story continues on about the Eagles, though, and I'll give y'all more later. But that was one of the little miracles along the way that God showed me. A little bit of God sprinkling blessings from him through me on others. So, hey, Lord, thank you for today. Thank you for blessings. Thank you for refining us like gold. Thank you for redemption. Thank you for your heart for us. And God, I'm so grateful for what you've done for my family and my friends, and giving me this platform to help others. In Jesus' mighty name I pray. Hey, y'all have a great day. I extended my allotment today. I was aiming for 10 or 11 minutes, but it was too good of a story to not stretch it out. So love you guys. Glory.